Hey guys, welcome to the weekend box office report for August 18th through the 20th, 2017. So, just to get it out of the way real quick, the reason that I do these videos every Sunday is a live stream where I cover the top box office of the weekend. And big thing for me is that when I was young, I was a big geek for box office stuff. It was just it's kind of silly. It's something that a lot of people, a lot of people have been into it for years. It's something you read about in the newspaper, and they used to talk about it on Siskel and Ebert and stuff like that. But even when I was 13, I would every weekend I was so obsessed with the numbers and what came in. And the big reason for that is it's fun to look at the budgets for movies and the marketing costs, and it's fun to see if a movie bombs or if it does well, and looking into the profits and the back end for the actors and the directors and what have you, and the difference between, studios splitting profits and the profits that come in from different countries, all sorts of things that are really, really cool if you can find the interest in it. And I do these videos to show people that it's not just, hey, this movie has an opening weekend, that's it, it shouldn't matter. It does matter the money that movies make, because studios care about making profit. And the profit they make is going to result in more films, like the films you want to see if they make money, and less films, or I guess fewer, too, if it's in a number amount. But, they're not going to keep making, like, original art films if they all bomb. They'll keep making superhero films if they all do well. You got to follow the money, and it gives you a good basis to understand why Hollywood does what it does. If you ever go, why don't they make more movies like this? Well, if you research it a little bit, you might be able to get a better answer for yourself and at least come to a better understanding. Now, I'm not saying that Hollywood shouldn't be held accountable for anything that they do, but there's always a nuance when you look at the box office and when you break down their accounting, because, you have to see that there's a lot of money being spent, there's a lot of people being paid, there's a lot of expectations for your studio and for the people who put the money up for the stockholders to make these kind of profits. So that's where a lot of it comes in, and I always say follow the money to see, what the future of Hollywood's going to be. If you just followed the trend of the box office over the last, pretty much century of film, but if you just, even the last 20 years, you'll see why movies are the way they are. People always bring up something like Fight Club. Like, why don't they make more movies like that? Fight Club didn't do that well. It ended up becoming a cult classic, but you see much more stuff that's similar to The Matrix because The Matrix took off and became a hit. It's just simple things like that. Even though everyone has seen Fight Club and all that, but the influences aren't necessarily the filmmaker's fault. Studios want to make certain kind of films because they're trying to recapture the box office or the zeitgeist that happened at that time. And my idea here is try to strip all that away and just look at the numbers and be as objective as we can be on that, like what makes money and what doesn't make money. That's the only thing I can really do here, and I enjoy doing it. So let's just hop into it. Instead of me whacking off for the whole first part here. Hopefully YouTube doesn't demonetize this one. They demonetized the last video, which I don't get at all. I don't think I said anything that bad in there. I guess I swore. So I'm going to try to not swear today. Yay! PC YouTube! Yay! Okay, so let's go down a bit, and we'll talk about some films that I want to cover that are kind of at the lower end, and then we'll get into the top, 10, and we'll talk about the number one this weekend and the new releases, which is what I always do. I'm going to try to make this one more to the point, a little bit less tangents this time. Okay, so an inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power. This is not doing that well. Now, don't get me wrong, this movie has a low budget of $1 million. But if you remember the last film in this the series came out, it made like $23 million domestic. It ended up being a very successful movie, made a lot of profit, and with inflation that would be a lot more. It won an Oscar. This film's probably not going to win an Oscar, and it doesn't seem to be having the same impact that film did. I don't know if it's just Al Gore isn't as relevant, and a lot of people don't really go to him as the climate change guy anymore. It's just kind of odd to think about, though. This I'm sure they thought this film, they thought, oh, this might do really well in the era of Trump and the whole debate about this, but most people don't seem to care. It might be, I don't know. It just might be that with time, that first film didn't really hold up for people, and the hype didn't hold up. I just wanted to point that one out. I think that's kind of odd. The film isn't doing very well. Big drop there, 63%. Cars 3, which had a huge budget of 175 to 180 million. Let's say the marketing was pretty steep too. They have not recouped that money domestically. At the worldwide box office, I'm not really sure if they've made a profit yet, a broke-even point. Yeah, they probably will down the road, but still, a comparison to the previous two Cars flicks, which did way, way better. I mean, if you go back, God, I guess we're going to have to go down a little bit to find Cars 1. Yeah, Cars 1 did a lot better than this. That movie made $244 million domestically. I mean, that's crazy. And then Cars 2, which isn't a loved movie, it even did a lot better than that. So, you know, I think Cars 2 made like $560 million. So this film, maybe not worldwide, it's not doing too bad, but domestically, that's a pretty big drop, and it's one of Pixar's lowest grossing films. So kind of a weird one out there. I'm almost certain they just made that movie for the merchandise. Okay, here's another film I wanted to bring up that I forgot to mention last weekend and previous weekends, and I don't know what's wrong with me. This just shows the dominance of Asian box office and what can happen in these markets and why we don't really need the American market like we previously did and why movies are changing. This movie's called Wolf Warrior 2. This movie cost $30 million, and in America it's only made about $2 million. It's only been released in 53 theaters. This film's made $682 million. That's insane. This movie is nuts. That I think the majority of that is from its own local box office. So this is just showing you, look how big these markets are getting. This film is one of the highest grossing films of the year. It's one of the most profitable films of the year. And I guarantee you most people in America have never heard of this movie. That didn't used to happen. It wasn't that common that a film that was just a foreign film that was predominantly popular in a foreign place was the 8th highest grossing film of the year worldwide. Okay, things are changing. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to say in the future a foreign film might end up being the highest grossing film worldwide of the year. Because if a movie like this can make this kind of money, just imagine the potential. So I feel really dumb for not pointing this movie out. It's so relevant, especially what we were talking about last week with the Chinese box office and everything like that and culture. I don't know why I didn't bring up Wolf Warrior 2. That movie definitely needs to be talked about and mentioned as a box office beast, to say the least. Oh, it rhymed! It rhymed, babies. Hey guys, I'm just gonna look at chat here a little bit, see what you guys are up to. I don't want to ignore you guys entirely. Hey guys. Apparently, the director of Inhumans miniseries admitted that Marvel, the prominent side of the Marvel more specifically, wanted the series to be made fast and cheap. Well, that doesn't surprise me if they wanted to make it cheap. I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me at all. Yeah. Valerian isn't even on the list anymore. Yeah. Any thoughts on Inhumans apparently being deliberately made cheap and fast? I mean, it doesn't shock me just to tell you that they want to do that. It happens sometimes. Sometimes they make products cheap and fast because they have deadlines and they want to ride the success of something. It's pretty typical. I mean, there's a lot of TV shows I watch now that I think are cheap. They don't put the Game of Thrones money into, and I understand why you don't. But sometimes you watch something, or even a movie, you know, like Dark Tower. It's like they didn't want to put the money into the right places. A lot of the time, you just kind of sit there like, why didn't you spend the money on this? Like Spider-Man Homecoming, I'd say that's a great example of how to use your money. You get Robert Downey Jr., you pay Robert Downey Jr. to come be in your movie and give it a cameo so you can put him in the marketing. They even have that shot in the trailer with him and Spider-Man swinging together, and it's not in the movie, Iron Man and Spider-Man. And that's the thing, like, that helps your movie out. That's where you should spend the money. That's a smart decision. Get good actors that bring in money, you know, get, you know, just this specific things, set design, art design, you know, all that stuff, getting a good cinematography. Look at, you know, like Alfonso Cuarón or Iñárritu when they hired Emmanuel Lubezki. So he gets hired for Gravity, and the work that they do on Gravity, and ends up making $700 million worldwide. It's one of the biggest films for Cuarón. And, you know, the only film that he made that was bigger than that was Harry Potter. Then you have Iñárritu come out, and he makes a couple films with him, shoots a couple with him there, and then The Revenant ends up being a blockbuster and becomes his most successful film. That was good use of money. They hired big actors. You get Leonardo DiCaprio. That was smart producing. So sometimes, but other times, they just want to get a product out there, and the way to get the product out there is to just make it fast and quick. It's just what it is. Oh, if it cost $80 million, then, dude, that's actually a pretty good budget. $80 million's a great budget. So that cost way more than the first season of Game of Thrones. There are a lot of other big shows. So if they're gonna put $80 million into it, that's impressive. I don't even think they put that in any of the Marvel shows. So I don't know. What is my thoughts on Black Swan? I will say I've only seen Black Swan twice. When I saw it in the theater initially, I loved it, and I thought it was one of the best films that year. It was like number 5 on my list that year. And it did remind me a lot of Perfect Blue, which I will say, Aronofsky owns the rights to that film, and I do think he didn't rip it off, but dang if it didn't feel like one big homage to Perfect Blue, which I did think did a lot of those same things superior. I did a lot of the similar things superior. However, though, it did reinvent his style. It kept that style that he had from The Wrestler, the more gritty, handheld style, and I really liked both those movies. I thought it was a character study like The Wrestler. He said they were companion pieces. He didn't write the film, so it was really interesting to see him direct and not write. I think the cinematography and all that's amazing, and I think it's, unfortunately, it's not a film that is worthy of repeat viewing like a lot of other films that I love with that depth, like, let's say, Eternal Sunshine or a Charlie Kaufman film or Coen Brothers film. I watch those films multiple times because I find something new. My problem with Aronofsky, if I had any criticism, because I do like Aronofsky, is that you get a lot of what he's saying and doing from the first viewing. There's nothing I'm going to pick on from Black Swan. When I watched it a second time, it was just the same experience I had the first time. And it was good, but it was less impactful because everything that was so surprising and wonderful about it, I already got the first viewing. Where other films like that, I watch a few times before they really catch on with me. So, I'll say Black Swan's a great movie, but not a classic in the sense that I don't think it holds up to like 20, 30 viewings like some other films do. Or it doesn't warrant it, necessarily. Not that it doesn't hold up. But it's a great movie. It's definitely a great movie and a really well-made movie and a well-acted movie. And I thought it was going to kick off this new renaissance of art films becoming blockbusters. It didn't happen, so... If Evangelion were to get a faithful live-action adaptation, who should direct? Well, that's a very good question. No, Star Wars 8 will not outgross Avatar. In fact, Star Wars 8 will not even outgross Force Awakens. I'm willing to put money down on that. I don't think Star Wars 8 will make as much as Force Awakens worldwide, so no, I don't think it'll pass Avatar. The last Star Wars movie, the third in the trilogy, yes, you have a good point there. Episode 9 could outgross Avatar. It is possible, depending on Episode 8. But this movie doesn't have near the hype of Force Awakens. It doesn't have Han Solo in it. We're not meeting the new characters again. Rey, Finn, and Poe did not catch on with merchandise and that like they probably thought they would. It's not like I don't think the film won't make a crap load of money, but look at Age of Ultron. That didn't outgross the first Avengers. So, you know, it just doesn't always happen. It's rare that a sequel comes out and makes that much more than a film that was a big hit. Like, Force Awakens made $2 billion. So it's kind of hard to match that, and I don't think Disney's even aiming for that goal. They'd probably be happy with $1.5 billion, which it's almost guaranteed to make. You know, they can't go in with the assumption this is going to make, you know, more than Force Awakens, because you don't know. You don't know how much of that was the hype of not seeing a Star Wars movie for a long time and it being a new film, and you don't know how much that'll carry over to Episode 8. Who would I like to see direct Evangelion? I think it's Evangelion, right? When I was young, I used to say Evangeline. Even though I'm not... I honestly, I don't know if you could do a faithful adaptation of Evangelion. I'm kind of confused about that. I'm like, how would you make that movie at all, or that show? It only really works as an anime. This is how I feel about Berserk, which I've been reading the manga of. I don't even know why you would attempt to do Berserk as like a live action. It wouldn't work. I guess if you had to pick a director, geez, I don't know who could handle that. A lot of directors would be cool to see make that movie, like James Cameron. Now, would I like to see a James Cameron movie like that? Of course I would. I think James Cameron could direct anything and make it interesting visually. But someone that they maybe could get who could do a good job, someone off the top of my head, I can't say his name well, Miguel Spagavanov. He directed Repo Men. He did the episode of Game of Thrones Hard Home and Battle of the Bastards and the series finale and the season finale last year. I could see him directing it. He's a pretty talented director. Or Cary Fukunaga would be a big pick for me. His work on True Detective and Beasts of No Nation shows he's great with actors. He shot Beasts of No Nation. He's great with a budget. He understands the themes and I think the esoteric nature of Evangelion. And I think he could... Actually, that's my pick, Cary Fukunaga, who was going to do the It movie. I think he could do Evangelion. Top man. Let's see. Akira live action? Come on, dude. Come on, dude. We're not... They're not doing Akira live action. That's just never happening. Okay, what current director could you compare to Christopher Nolan? The one that can both make a blockbuster and artistic and gain positive reviews? David Fincher. David Fincher can have a hit movie like Gone Girl, or Benjamin Button, or Panic Room, and critics love it. He's a critic darling, and they're pieces of art. So right there off the top of my head, David Fincher and him are contemporaries. I can't say Paul Thomas Anderson because a lot of his movies don't do well. Oh, Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino Quentin Tarantino writes and directs his own movies, and they're huge hits. Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds were both big, and they won Oscars and stuff. So, yeah, is there really anyone who has more power than Tarantino? He made Django Unchained like the least mainstream film I've seen in a while. I mean, him and Nolan seem like they get to do whatever they want, so I'd say Tarantino. I would like to see Nicholas Winding Refn. Ooh, good choice. Okay, let me get back to the box office a little bit. I'm going on some tangents here. And I said that wasn't going to happen. You guys asked these questions, though. Baby Driver, 101 million domestically. Great total. $34 million budget. Marketing was probably $30 million. 175 million worldwide. It looks like this film could make 200 mil worldwide. Edgar Wright's biggest film. First film to ever make 100 million, even at the worldwide box office. It doesn't have the budget of Scott Pilgrim. This is a big comeback for him after leaving Ant-Man, which would have been a big hit for him. Because Ant-Man did do very well. 20 mil opening weekend. This film held well enough from 20 million to make 100 million. Where comparatively, let's say Alien Covenant, that movie opened to 40 million and couldn't even make 75 million domestically. So this film did really well. It was great counter-programming. Great release for Sony. This is big for the cast, for the director, for the studio. It was great. Like I said, it was great counter-programming to put this muscle kind of guy adrenaline film, this car movie, this old-school car film, chase stunt kind of film, right in the middle of a crowded summer. It was actually a great move, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't think this would do so well. I don't think anyone predicted this would do so well. Like, I didn't think it was going to do bad, but I wouldn't have thought Baby Driver was going to be a hit, because at this point, I'm pretty sure it's safe to call this a hit movie. Especially considering it's Edgar Wright, and he's never even come close to something like this. So, you know, whatever you can say, even if you don't like the movie, you can't deny it's doing good. The Big Sick, like I've brought up before, do it real quick. They spent a lot of money on marketing. They paid a lot to buy this movie. I think they paid $19 million. They put a lot into marketing. I think they put $30 million into a marketing campaign. They have not gotten that money back domestically at all. It's about at the end of its run. It's not even at $40 million yet. They have not made that money back. They released this in 2,600 theaters. I said this before. I won't go into it too much. I've said it over again. Basically, they overshot this movie. They thought this was going to break out and be a big hit that made like $100 million because it was getting rave reviews. It's an Oscar hopeful. They thought it was really going to break out. And I get why they thought that. It looked like a crowd pleaser and it was getting great reviews. I understand the studio's idea with this. I think they just went too wide early. They kind of jumped the gun with this wide release, and it's not like the film dropped bad. All the drops were 33, 36, 31. Those are good drops, but there just wasn't a lot of interest in this movie. You know, when you're only bringing in 5, 3, 2 million, that's not that great. You need to bring in a lot more than that. It never really, like, this opening weekend should have been like 15 million or 20 million, like how Baby Driver's doing. They didn't really, it didn't carry on, it didn't become a new Knocked Up. I haven't seen this movie, so I'm not saying I liked it or didn't like it, and I actually really like Michael Showalter as a director. So I'm actually really interested to see if he gets an Oscar nomination, but yeah, it's not doing that great. This is pretty disappointing, and they definitely thought this was going to do better, because like I said, this movie had crazy marketing campaign. I saw an ad for The Big Sick like every time I turned on my television. Wonder Woman, 404 million domestic, 800 million worldwide. Wonder Woman is the craziest hit of the summer. $149 million budget. That's one of the lowest DC budgets, maybe the lowest in the history of modern DC flicks. Even Batman Begins cost $150 million. So this domestic total is huge. I don't think this is open in Japan yet, so if this makes more than 821 mil worldwide, it'll be the highest grossing without inflation. I gotta make that clear, because Spider-Man 1 made over $1 billion with inflation. This will be the highest grossing debut superhero film ever. This film has outperformed Deadpool, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and it's only really competing with, we have to go back to Spider-Man back in the early days of superhero films. So to say Wonder Woman's a hit is an understatement. It's a phenomenon. This film is going to lead to a huge franchise. You got to remember, when Iron Man came out and made a lot of money, and then we got Tony Stark, and then Iron Man became a thing. Look at this box office. This is the kind of box office, 103 million opening weekend, and then it led to 800 mil worldwide. This is going to lead to billion-dollar sequels, a big boost. This is major. So there's really no way to spin this in a negative manner. Wonder Woman is DC's cash cow. It is their white elephant. They should put all of their money and backing and everything they have into Wonder Woman and Patty Jenkins. It's only the smart business decision. Drop Zack Snyder, focus on Wonder Woman, focus on this kind of movie. You know, I don't even love this movie, but you can't deny the success. They nailed it. This is a huge hit. DC, Warner Brothers, they nailed it. This is Marvel kind of marketing and brand recognition and appeal. They made a Wonder Woman movie that's outgrossed Superman and a new Batman flick, and you know it's doing Batman v Superman numbers without Batman and Superman. You know, you can't deny it. It's quite an achievement. I'm not really sure how they pulled it off. Detroit, another huge drop, 70%. Holy crud. This has the same budget as Baby Driver, $34 million. Here's another film that they overshot its popularity. They thought that this film was going to catch on and really tap into what's going on right now with Black Lives Matter and police brutality and the political debate and Trump. 3,000 theater-wide release after a limited opening. 7 mil opening weekend. Second weekend was a 60% drop to 2 million. This weekend, 70%. This movie is gone. It will not be in theaters coming up here soon. It could still get Oscar nominations and, you know, become a cult film down the road. But as far as this catching on at the box office, it's not even doing much better than The Hurt Locker did, which wasn't a big hit. And The Hurt Locker cost a lot less. The Hurt Locker was like a $15 million movie. Yeah, the studio I think they thought this was going to break out, and because why would they release it in 3,000 theaters? Once again, you know, this is the big sick thing. They overthought its reach. They released it really wide too early, and the numbers are coming back. And the audience that wanted to see this went away too fast, and you didn't let the word of mouth or an audience find this movie. The audience that would have liked this movie maybe never found it, or people just aren't liking the movie. That could be it too. People might just not be enjoying that movie. That's a factor as well, that audiences just don't like it. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie, just sometimes things, you know, Transformers 2 is a really bad movie, and that film did really well. War for the Planet of the Apes, $140 million domestic on a $150 million budget. Still extremely disappointing numbers domestically. It's doing a lot better now at the foreign box office, $346 million worldwide. So they're probably going to end up, you know, getting their money back on this. But still, as I pointed out before, the last film made $700 million worldwide. And the film before that made under $500 million. And just the likelihood that this film's going to make, you know, even close to the numbers of Dawn, I don't think is going to happen. The best I could see this doing is probably over $400 million worldwide. It still has some releases in the foreign market to come out and do, and we'll see how it does. But, you know, I think, like I said, I blame the marketing campaign. I think the marketing on this movie was very poor. And I've had that feeling for a long time. I think the marketing hurt this film, and I still think it hurt it. And I think they released it in a crowded summer, and they didn't think about the release date. The release date for this film and the marketing were a big because the movie's pretty good, and people are liking the movie, but, you know, those other two films had a great release date and really good marketing. And that does factor in. Despicable Me 3, $80 million budget, $948 million worldwide. This film might crack $1 billion. This has to be one of the most profitable films of the year. Illumination once again shows how they can bring in an animated film on a low budget and make huge profits. This franchise isn't dying at all. Each one of the films, I mean, this is Shrek money. This is Shrek in its prime money. This franchise, this character, the Minions, they are here to stay. Even if the film like Secret Life of Pets and that would have bombed, which it didn't, or Sing would have bombed, which it didn't, they wouldn't have to worry because they have a huge cash cow with this franchise. And it's, you know, this foreign total of about $700 million. Or the Ice Age franchise was very similar to this. But Despicable Me seems to not be losing much traction. I mean, $251 million domestics, not a bad total. So Illumination once again makes one of the most successful films of the year. Atomic Blonde, $47 million domestic, $73 million worldwide on a $30 million budget. It's almost a John Wick's total. If this can make $100 million worldwide, that's not too bad. Although I do think they thought the domestic total was going to be a little bit better, and I would have thought it was going to be a little bit better. I thought the film was going to kind of be like a secret hit, kind of like how John Wick 2 became sort of a hit. But the director of this movie is directing Deadpool 2, so I think he's going to have a hit on his hands very soon. Great, we're getting through this quick. Glass Castle, not worth noting, not making any money. Kidnap's not really worth noting. 21 mil budget, 24 domestic total. Not bad, not great. Wind River, new film released, directed by Taylor Sheridan, the writer of Sicario and Hell or High Water. This is actually a pretty good opening weekend. 3 million at 694 locations, low budget. We're gonna have to see the word of mouth on this and how it holds up, but this isn't bad. You know, it's not a big deal to talk about. Dark Tower, 52% drop in 3,100 theaters in its third weekend to 3.7 million. 41 mil domestic total, 60 mil budget, 71 mil worldwide. They have not made a profit yet off this film, if we're going off the rule of averages here. However, I don't think Sony and MRA have this deal set up where they lose a lot of money. Still, I don't see this film making 50 mil domestic, which is terrible box office. And I don't even know if it's going to make much more over 100 million worldwide with how this is going. It doesn't seem like this is catching on anywhere. I did a long video on this movie. It made a lot of people angry. I've talked about this movie for weeks now. I went on a long rant about it last week when I was looking at the box office. But basically, you know, they made a bad movie. People didn't like it for the most part. It didn't catch on, and it's doing, you know, pretty crappy, mediocre box office. Fairly straight to the point. Nothing to really go into. It's just another bad franchise film that didn't catch on. You can't blame the actors or anything like that. Idris Elba's not to blame. Matthew McConaughey, it just is what it is. Although, to point it out, Matthew McConaughey has been in a string of bombs lately outside of Sing. Gold didn't do well. Sea of Trees didn't do well. Kubo and the Two Strings actually didn't do that great. It was a good move, but if you see that budget was 60 mil and they didn't even come close to making that back. Free State of Jones was a huge bomb and had a very big marketing campaign and a $50 million budget. So the only films he's been in recently that made money were Interstellar and everything else outside of an animated film. He has a Free State of Jones were, you know, his lead films in gold. So, I don't know, Matthew McConaughey's not showing much box office traction. And I've often said the movie star's kind of a dying thing. So, you know, gotta bring it up. What is Wind River? It's this film the guy made who wrote Sicario and Hell. I don't really know what it's about. I saw a trailer. Jeremy Renner has like an arrow. He's Hawkeye again. I'm not sure he's in snow. I hear it's a good movie, though. So I don't know anything about it, but if I do see it, I'll do a review. Also, Spider-Man Homecoming review is coming out soon. I watched the movie for a second time, so... apparently rumors say an early cut of Justice League was unwatchable. I have heard that, yeah. And I totally believe that rumor. Could you point out maybe a top 5 old movies you watched during the summer that you would indicate for people to watch? Yeah, I can do that. Sure. Maybe I'll do a video on that or something. Yes, I'm glad Baby Driver's a sleeper hit too. Okay. Just keeping up with your Yeah, I agree. Kubo should have done better. It just, yeah, it didn't do that well. It bombed really bad. Claymation films like stop motion, they don't do that well. I don't even know why they make them. Fantastic Mr. Fox was a bomb by Wes Anderson, and that film was very critically acclaimed. Coraline's the only one in recent years, and Paranorman, that did good. A lot of the other ones don't do that well. People don't. It's like doing a 2D animated film. It's a risk. Kids go to see the 3D animated films because that's what they're used to. You can't blame anyone. It's just the market we're in. You know, people are very specific with. It's like releasing an anime here. Even when Miyazaki gets a film released here, Spirited Away only made $10 million here. Spirited Away is one of the greatest movies ever made. I mean, it really is. It's one of the great masterpieces of cinema, and that film wasn't a huge hit here. You know, that movie that came out recently, that was really great. Your Name, that was a huge hit in Japan. Didn't do that well here. You know, people are very uptight with what kind of animated film they go to see. If Miyazaki can't make a film a hit, then I don't know what to I mean, he makes great movies and he can't make them a hit here, so what are the chances? Girls Trip, 103 mil domestic, 114 mil wine, a $19 million budget. Great box office. This is the highest grossing film for the director, domestically and worldwide. This is better than Tyler Perry numbers. This is huge. I think this guarantees a sequel is probably coming out, Girls Trip 2. This was great counter programming. It shows that you could break out with black female leads in a comedy. It really shuts down that whole argument that people didn't go see Ghostbusters because of female leads or that we had a problem with the women in it. It also shuts down the argument that people don't like female comedies or like Rough Night Bomb because of political correct, or people didn't want to go see it because they didn't like, you know, they hate PC culture. No. Here's a progressive film. It's got black actresses as the leads, being mature, you know, modern black women. Okay, right? And it's a huge hit. And nobody's talking about this in the media or in the mainstream because they don't want to acknowledge it, that this film came out and did well. Because it kills the narrative that we don't like women in movies, but it's consistently shown not to be true at all. Your Name actually outgrossed Spirited Away. Yeah, it outgrossed it in Japan. Yeah, but like I said, here in America, didn't do good at all. And it didn't have good, they released it limited and it didn't do that great. People don't go see 3D CG animated films in America. They just don't. And even anime a lot of the time now is done with computers, and has this really, like, the new Berserk anime looks terrible. Oh yeah, Wonder Woman completely destroys the argument. You are correct. Wonder Woman is laughably, it outgrossed Iron Man. How can you destroy that argument anymore? It outgrossed the first Iron Man, with which was a big breakout hit. That movie's like the example you go to for how to start a franchise, and they outgrossed that. Spider-Man Homecoming. 314 mil domestic, 724 mil worldwide on 175 mil budget. 175 million. They probably spent 50 million on marketing. Definitely. This film, the reason that I had that, where I was saying it was underperforming earlier, was simply because I was going off the weekends at first. This opening weekend was good, but then it had a 62% drop, and then a 50% drop, and a 40% drop. It just looked like this movie was dropping real hard and was going to go away. So I was like, okay. I mean, there was a point that the sites were estimating, the box office experts, that this film was going to end up at about 290 domestic. So when I was saying disappointing, I was just going, yeah, 100 mil opening weekend, Iron Man in it, Spider-Man, it's not even going to make 300 mil, Marvel tie-in. It's doing less than The Amazing Spider-Man, which made 300 million. But what ended up happening was in August, it started to really hold well and have low drops from 8 to 6 to 4. It's only dropped 2 million every weekend and had really good weekday holds. So due to that boost here in August that wasn't there on those first initial weekends, it's been able to really, make that jump over, and it's at 314 mil domestic. It'll outgross the first Iron Man without inflation, obviously. The first Iron Man made like 370 million. But it's going, yeah, Wonder Woman even beat Iron Man with inflation, which is amazing. So this film's going to make, let's say it could make 320 mil domestically. That's great. I thought it was going to do 350 mil or more. I especially thought with the Tony Stark tie-in and Robert Downey being on board and the Civil War setup and all that Marvel. But still, this is one of Marvel's highest grossing films. It's if it can outgross Guardians of the Galaxy, it'll be their biggest debut film, I think, because that film made like 773 million. It's not going to get near its domestic total, though. Guardians of the Galaxy made a lot more domestically. Still, if it's released in Japan, I don't know if it's been released in China yet. If it can get to 800 million worldwide, that's pretty good. I still think this could have done better. I still think I thought it was going to do better. But still, for the kind of movie it is, it's actually a very small movie. It doesn't have a lot of spectacle in it. It's kind of a high school movie. That's actually the thing I like most about it, is the small scale of it all. But it's doing really well. It's just, like I said, The Amazing Spider-Man made 760 mil worldwide in 2012. So with inflation, the first Amazing Spider-Man probably made 800 million worldwide. So this is doing about the same box office as that film on a worldwide total. The big difference here, it's doing a lot better domestically. It's got much better word of mouth, better reviews. The budget's a lot lower. They have a better chance for the sequel to do well. So, there's a lot of that. But this was a very wide release film. It had a lot of hype, a lot of marketing. It had the Iron Man tie-in. This is the only film Sony's really had this year that's going to make them a lot of profit, and I don't know if it's enough to save the studio, but I've been very cynical about this movie and a little negative about its box office for the last few weeks, but this August totals really pushed it over the edge. That's the context I'm trying to give you. There was a point it looked like this film wasn't going to even make 300 mil domestic. You have to go back to that second and third weekend where it was just dropping hard. So, nobody can predict when a movie's going to catch on later, so it started holding better in August. That happens sometimes. War for the Planet of the Apes isn't holding any better now. It's still holding okay, but it's not, really helping it out that much. This really helps Spider-Man. It's made a lot of money here in August. A lot. Like, if you go back before August kicked in, the film was at 278 million, and it's made pretty much all of its money since then in August. So, this is really good total. I don't know how much better the sequel are doing or not. There's a lot of factors to consider. I don't know how much the Iron Man tie-in's helping it, even at the foreign box office, because Robert Downey Jr. is a global movie star. I'm not sure. But Spider-Man's brand isn't dead. But it's definitely not as big as it used to be, but that's normal. So we're going to have to wait for the sequel to see how successful this really was. You know, like Star Trek '09, when that came out, it got great reviews and it did pretty well. It didn't make a lot of money at the foreign box office, but domestically it was huge, right? So we all assumed, okay, well, the next film's going to be even bigger. Then it did okay, and it did less domestically and better worldwide, and it cost more. Then the third film comes out and does even less box office than the first film. It makes like $350 million, and it's kind of, it's not a bomb, but it's pretty close. So then the question goes, crap, the Star Trek reboot franchise isn't really holding up. So you really don't know until the sequel. But this is such a big movie that I doubt the sequel won't be a big hit. But you never know. It's up in the air, but as far as it is right now, Spider-Man Homecoming is a hit. It's made $724 million worldwide. That's a great total. The domestic total is real nice. Amazing Spider-Man 2 made $500 million at the foreign box office, so this still has yet to reach that. Because you got to remember, Amazing Spider-Man 2 even made $700 million worldwide. It just cost a lot. It cost $255 million. So, you know, this is doing the box office of a typical Spider-Man movie so far. It's if they can outgross that foreign total, if it can make like $550 million. That would be pretty impressive. But, you know, the budget's so low, they did a good job with it. Really good job. Let's see. The best comedians I've ever seen in the past years, comedies. I read comedians. My bad. Wonder Woman's success has got to give something hope for the production team of the forthcoming Vikander-led Tomb Raider. Good. Yes, very much so. Plus the fact that nowadays lots of animes have non-existent budgets. You're right, Berserk does have no budget. It looks cheap as heck. Hold on, let me go read up a little bit what you guys are saying, sorry. Do you believe the whole Spider-Man fatigue? Yeah, I think there's Spider-Man fatigue. I don't think it's because people dislike Spider-Man. I just think they weren't making great Spider-Man films. You know, the last few Spider-Man flicks weren't great. And even Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, is a good movie, but I don't think it's a great movie. And that factors in. You know, people get a little bit tired. You know, and there's been a lot of Spider-Man movies. This is the third reboot of Spider-Man. So with fatigue considered, this is doing really well. You have to consider the fatigue. The Emoji Movie, 71 mil domestic, 125 mil worldwide. 50 mil budget. I don't know what they spent on marketing. This is probably doing okay for them, but I'm assuming they thought this was going to make more than this. I mean, it's not going to make 100 mil domestically. It looks like it might barely make 80 mil, which is not great for an animated film. I mean, if they had spent actual money to make this film, if this had cost 80, 90 million, this would be a bomb. I still don't think they've really made money on this yet, and the worldwide total is where they're going to need to do it, but this domestic total I think is pretty bad. Really, I mean, you could say, oh, it passed its budget, but really, 24 million opening weekend and an 80 mil final total is not that great. So, I don't know. Okay, Nut Job 2. Last week we had a big discussion about this, and the thing we all kept saying was, well, at least the movie probably didn't cost much, so they're not losing money. We were wrong. They actually spent $40 million on this movie. And marketing. And this is the lowest opening weekend for a wide release of this size, of 4,000 theaters. And we kept saying, wow, it did better than maybe we thought. Why wasn't this straight to video? Why did they even release this? But I kept thinking to myself, well, it looks so cheap, I doubt they're going to lose much money. Yeah, if they put 40 mil into this in marketing, they are losing money. So they may have only released this movie so they could take less of a hit from it before it goes out on DVD, because that's terrible. I mean, it can't even make that kind of budget back as an animated film. And it's not like, I mean, yeah, it had a 38% drop, but still, it's not going to make $40 million. Holy crud. I haven't seen Valerian, so I can't really review it. If I watch it, I will talk about it, and I do plan on watching it. So, it's up in the air right now. Dunkirk, which just found out Christopher Nolan lost a $500,000 camera. It drowned. It sunk. It's like his third camera to break on a set. 50 mil opening weekend, 165 mil domestic, $100 million, $100 million, the production budget, $392 million worldwide, $227 million at the foreign box office. This is a hit, I think. It's going to make $400 million worldwide and make more than that. The domestic total is really good. I could see this making 175 to 180 million. So here we go. We got, I don't know why Dan's messaging me. If you remember Dan, he was on a live stream with me on Alien and Star Wars, but he's talking to me about something. I don't know. I can't read it right now. But Dunkirk, doing really well. Very small drops. And the film, 6 million. If it does like let's say 3 million next weekend and then holds on me, I could see it getting to 180 million, which is around where Interstellar got. Though Interstellar with inflation now. What's your favorite Back to the Future movie? The first one. That's the best one. I like Back to the Future 2 a lot, and I like Back to the Future 3 quite a bit, but anybody who thinks Back to the Future 1 isn't the best movie, I just don't understand. That's clearly the best movie in the trilogy. I don't even think it's close, but Interstellar did make 200 mil with inflation, but still, like, look at all these movies Nolan made that made money. It's a war film. It doesn't have a lot of dialogue. It wasn't led by its big stars. It was only on the name of Christopher Nolan and the historical significance of Dunkirk. It's one of his shortest films. It's also one of the most acclaimed films of his career. It is. And it's one of the best reviewed films of the year. So that does factor in. But, you know, did anyone say Dunkirk? I mean, there was some predictions that thought the movie was going to make more, like 200 million plus. But still, with a $100 million budget and let's say 50 mil in marketing, $150 million, that's not a bad domestic total at all. That's more than the Planet of the Apes flick that's out right now. So, you know, can you really say it's bad? And 400 million plus worldwide. I mean, it's one of the most successful war films. Even American Sniper, which was huge, and mainly from its domestic total. That film was a huge hit. You know, it didn't do that great at the foreign box office. Dunkirk's actually doing pretty well at the foreign box office for a war film. I'm not sure if it's going to make 500 million worldwide. I hope it does. And that's going to be a factor. Logan Lucky, the return of Steven Soderbergh. This is not one of his hit films, sadly. $29 million budget, $8 million opening weekend at 3,000 theaters with Adam Driver, Channing Tatum, and Daniel Craig. That's kind of a bad opening weekend. There's really no way to spin it any other way. Magic Mike was a huge hit. Side Effects wasn't, which I thought was one of his best films of his entire career. Haywire was a bomb. Contagion did well. So occasionally Soderbergh will have a hit film like Contagion or Magic Mike that's mainstream, or an Ocean's film. But for the most part, outside of like Traffic and Aaron Brockovich, this era, all of his other films, Solaris didn't do well. All of his documentaries, Shay, The Girlfriend Experience, The Informant didn't do that great. Out of Sight didn't actually do that well. It was a bomb. And Out of Sight's a great movie. So Soderbergh's never been box office gold. He's just always been kind of a critic's darling. This film got rave reviews. It's got 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It looked really good. I thought the trailers were really good. I thought it was going to open better than this. I would have guessed 15 million or a little bit more. So even with these, you know, pretty big name actors, I think, really, I think everyone in this is a pretty good name. Even Seth MacFarlane, yeah, he was in the trailers. Soderbergh's a big name. He came out of retirement. He's only been working on television the last few years on the show The Nick. So, yes, disappointing. This isn't very good. I don't think it's even going to make its budget back domestically. And it was released very wide. I don't know, it's just upsetting. I was hoping the film was going to do well. Not much else I could say about it. It's just not doing that great. It's unfortunate. Let's see. The Academy better not snub Dunkirk at the Oscars. I really doubt that. I'm pretty sure Dunkirk's going to be a huge hit. I mean, do really well. I'm sure it's going to get a lot of nominations. Jackie Chan was in The Nut Job too? Jesus Christ. That's crazy. I have no idea there was even a market people wanting The Nut Job 2. Not my first thought when wanting an animated sequel. Let's see. I almost didn't watch Homecoming in theaters exactly because I'm tired of Spider-Man. Yeah, I can understand that. I was a little cynical about watching it too because I got a little tired of Spider-Man 2. That's not a bad point to make. Should there be a sequel to the South Park movie? At this current state, no, because I don't think they could even match the quality of that first flick, and I don't want them to make a sequel that's not as good. The South Park movie holds up really well. If you go back and watch that film, it hasn't dated at all. It's still some of the best writing and just satire and commentary that they've ever done. The jokes, I don't know if they could top it. It really elevated the show to another place of like mythical nature, and I just don't think a sequel could do it. I don't think Train Mac could do it with another movie. They did it with Book of Mormon, and they could do it with other projects, like when they made a really good video game, but I don't think they could make a movie as good as that flick. I mean, that movie's almost too good. It's kind of brilliant. It's like one of the best musicals ever made. Annabelle Creation, pretty big second weekend drop, 55%. It's a pretty steep drop. $15 million budget, $64 million domestically, $160 million worldwide. This film is a huge hit. The director's last film, Lights Out, made $67 million. domestically, 148 worldwide on a $5 million budget. This film, which is a sequel to Annabelle, which was actually a very successful film. Actually, if we was there any so what if the writer came back or yeah, okay. So the first Annabelle made 84 mil domestic because it had pretty big drops too. Had a similar drop, 57%. Actually had the same second weekend. So they're about performing on par with each other. It had a $6 million budget, made $256 million worldwide. This film's got oh, whoops. I don't know what the heck we're doing on the Wolf Warrior 2 again. Oh, so Wolf Warrior 3 is probably going to make a lot of money. Anyway, 64 mil domestic, 160 mil. Needless to say, they've made their money back, and then some. Not only domestically, but worldwide. This is going to make over 200 million and might outgross the original film because that foreign total is nuts. This has only been out for 2 weeks. It looks like it's tracking to do on par with the first film. So, as far as the sequel goes, the budget's about double. You know, it's about twice the last budget. A little bit more than that. And it's doing on par with the first film. And the factor to consider here is the budget's insanely low. So, Annabelle 3 is happening. Once again, low-budget horror films are the way to go for huge profits. I liked Logan Lucky sort of in a nice guy's way, as it required a bit of patience before their story came together. Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's that kind of movie. Do you think Mother is going to be a hit or flop? I think it depends on the quality. If it's as good as, like, Black Swan and The Wrestler and Requiem for a Dream, I think it could be a hit. If it's a disappointing film, kind of like Noah was for a lot of people, but Noah had the whole biblical epic behind it and the idea of Noah's Ark story, I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be a hit. Because, you know, it just looks like, you know, you can't really count out Aronofsky and Jennifer Lawrence and all that. So who really knows? I don't know if the director of Lights Out is, but I think he is. Okay, so let's go to the number one of the weekend. And this movie actually is a big surprise. I mean, I guessed this movie would do well. Because I thought the marketing was great. I really did. I thought the trailers... This movie didn't get good reviews. This movie has like 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. It only relied on its two lead actors being in it. Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds are in a movie together where they're basically just arguing the whole movie, and the trailer's focused on that. I think that was great marketing. They made this on a low budget, so $29 million budget, under $30 million. I'm sure that Ryan and Sam have a back-end pay probably. They probably are going to get money if this movie makes a profit, but I gotta say, for Ryan Reynolds, this is one of his better opening weekends outside of Deadpool. If you actually look at Ryan Reynolds' box office, it usually sucks. Like, Life didn't do well, Criminal didn't do well, Mississippi Grind didn't even register, Selfless didn't do well, Woman in Gold didn't do well, The Captive, R.I.P.D., Turbo. Yeah, pretty much all... Yeah, Safe House was the last film he was in that was a hit with Denzel. So here's the message. Ryan Reynolds is a big box office draw if he's Deadpool, or if you put him in a movie where a black guy yells at him a lot and beats him up. Those two factors can make Ryan Reynolds a hit star. Because Safe House, you have old Denzel beating the crap out of Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Reynolds is trying to protect him. Oh my god, it's the same premise. Holy crap. It is. In this movie, he's protecting this guy who's like the most dangerous killer in the world. And then in this movie, he's a guy protecting it's like the most dangerous hitman in the world. They made the same movie. Except one's an action film and one's a comedy. But oh my god. I never made that connection. This is Safe House 2, Electric Boogaloo. A 21 mil opening weekend's good, though. I thought this might have opened a little better, like 25 million. But on its Friday opening, it did like 7 million. Oh, 8 million. So it held pretty well. I think the cinema score is high. I think this film's going to do well. I think it's going to make 50 mil domestic, if not more. Who knows what it'll do worldwide. I mean, like I said, the budget's low. They probably spent a good chunk on marketing. But, you know, I think this is pretty good opening weekend. I think it's pretty impressive. It's the number one film. It's one of Ryan, like I said, it's one of Ryan's best film. It's one of Ryan's best opening weekends outside of like Safe House and Deadpool. Sam Jackson's always, he's always pretty good at the box office, actually. Kong, Tarzan did better than people thought it was going to do. Yeah, Sam Jackson actually doesn't star in a lot of bombs. He actually has a pretty consistent track record. But, good director. I mean, not good director. I think this director sucks. He made The Expendable 3s and Red Hill. But, Good box office. You can't really deny 21 million opening weekend. It just shows you, you can put two leads in a movie, give a really silly, goofy premise, and you can sell the movie on that to have a decent opening weekend. And if you don't spend too much, that's the key. They could have made this film and spent 60, 70 million, and this opening weekend wouldn't be that great. You'd be like, hey, you spent a lot of money on this. Instead, they didn't spend a lot of money on this. They went cheap with the production qualities, and this, I mean, it looks cheap, but, they got the two actors, and they sold the movie on that. And they made a crowd pleaser. So, good choice, really. Good choice. Honestly, I think it was very successful. Ryan Reynolds has seen a comeback since Deadpool. He has seen a comeback, but you got to look at this, dude. I just brought this up. His films post-Deadpool haven't done well. After Deadpool, Criminal didn't do well, which I'm just saying that was a film that had bad marketing. It wasn't a big film. And Life didn't do that well either with him and Jake Gyllenhaal. It did okay. It made $100 million worldwide, but domestically, it didn't do that great. And don't get me wrong, I think he is a star again. He's a huge star, but it's kind of like Hugh Jackman. Is Hugh Jackman a star, or is he a star as Wolverine? That's kind of the factor. You never know how big an actor is outside of the character they play. Even Robert Downey Jr., outside of Sherlock Holmes and Iron Man, he hasn't been in a bunch of hit movies. So, it still has yet to be seen. But this is one of Ryan Reynolds' best performances. No doubt. No doubt at all. Obi-Wan Solo movie, good or bad idea? I think Obi-Wan Solo movie's a good idea, actually. I mean, we've seen a lot of Obi-Wan, though, so I don't know much. But Ewan McGregor was the best part of the prequels, no question. It's not even, for me. So why not? Also, they limited themselves for South Park, Season 20. Isn't the direct... Oh, same questions. Alright, so, let's try to find some films we haven't looked at. Hitman's Bodyguard, good opening weekend. Annabelle's doing well. All that. God, I need some water. Yeah, hold me some water. Hold on. Someone's handing me... Yeah, my throat is dry. I don't think I've taken a breath for 50 minutes. I don't think I've breathed or anything. I can't... Oh my goodness. Whew. Oh. Okay, Transformers The Last Knights finally made 600 mil worldwide. Still, that budget is huge. Marketing was a lot. Somebody told me this was Chinese co-production, so they probably relied on the box office. But still, 600 million worldwide after two films made 1.1 billion. The last two films. That's not very good. And that domestic total's terrible, so I'd say Michael Bay's done with the Transformers franchise. It's not that it's doing horrible, it's just doing horrible for the context that it's a Transformers movie and that franchise does better. Much better. 862 million worldwide for Guardians of the Galaxy. It's pretty much done. It only did about 90 million more worldwide than the first film. Not saying that's bad at all, but I would have expected this to make $1 billion. I mean, I gotta say, domestically, this is a good total. 389 million, that's fine. But the foreign box office, I'm pretty shocked. When you go back and look at the first film, it made 440 mil at the foreign box office. And typically with the sequel, the second film, including with Marvel, makes a lot more money at the foreign box office. And we see this all the time. I mean, not necessarily with Avengers, but Captain America Winter Soldier made way more money. Iron Man 3 and 2 made more money than the first flick at the foreign box office. Domestically, the second one did it. Thor 2 did a lot better. Pretty much all the sequels to their films have much better, maybe not Incredible Hulk, but Doctor Strange. You have to assume Doctor Strange is going to make more money, 800 million. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I just would have guessed it was going to make $1 billion, because 440 mil foreign was a huge total when that came out. So you were just oh, well, the next film's going to do 600 million. So the fact that the film's only done 30 million more at the foreign box office, and domestically, with inflation, it's only done about $20 million better, then that's really weird. It means the market didn't grow much from the first flick. All this is everyone who saw the first movie came to see this movie, which is fine, but they didn't really build much of an audience, so I don't know if, Guardians of the Galaxy maxed out on that first film. It's just kind of confusing to me. Why didn't this film make $1 billion? Why is the foreign box office so low? That's not that impressive for the sequel that made 400. I mean, why didn't this make 650 million? Has it been opened everywhere? I just don't really get it. I'm trying to understand it. Did you enjoy the first Annabelle movie? I didn't even bother to see it, dude, because it looked so bad. So I don't know what to tell you. I kind of liked the first Conjuring. I liked The Conjuring 2 a lot better. I thought the Annabelle sequence in the first Conjuring movie was actually the best sequence. Me and my friend talked about that, how good that sequence is at the beginning. But Annabelle, the reviews were so bad and it looked so bad. So, yeah, no, I hear that movie Good Time's really good. Like, I hear that movie is a good time. Pun totally intended. Let's see what else is out there. Pirates of the Caribbean, $786 million worldwide on a $230 million budget. I've heard they had a lot more money than that in this film, over $300 million. Not sure how well this is doing. Because, you know, they have a lot of back end with these actors. You know, I know people are like, hey, it made this kind of money. Of course it's a hit. Like, I'm not saying they didn't make money, but how much money did they really make? They're not going to make $100 million off this flick. There's just no way. They spent way too much. I mean, they spent a lot on marketing and everything. Like, the rumors are this movie cost like $320 million. Like, even a $230 million budget's gigantic. And considering the last Pirates flick in 2012 made $1 billion on a, you know, and it had a bigger budget, but still, I mean, I'm assuming they thought this was going to make $1 billion. Why would they make a movie this expensive to do less than Wonder Woman? So I'm not sure if we're getting another Pirates flick, because you have to just assume the next film's not even going to make that kind of money. And this one brought back the old actors, and, you know, it tried to rely as much on the goodwill of the franchise. And that domestic total is pretty bad. $171 million for a Pirates of the Caribbean film is not. This is a franchise that at one point, if we just go back a few years, let's go back a few years with inflation. At one point, this franchise made $575 million domestic. Even the first film, Curse of the Black Pearl, with inflation, made $450 million. Okay, so the franchise has lost a lot of fandom. It has not. It's kind of like, damn. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Let's see if there's anything else to look at before we wrap this up. Oh, there's Good Time. Good Time had 125,000 weekend in 20 theaters. I really want to see that movie. I hope I get a chance to. I've been hearing nothing but good things about it. And reading a lot of good things about it. So yeah, I don't think I missed anything. Nope. All right, well, there's nothing really left to talk about. Ghost Story is doing good because its budget's insanely low. The movie only cost $100,000. That's nuts. Holy crap. This movie Columbus, I hear, is absolutely amazing, and has John Cho in it. And I've loved John Cho for years. I hate it's not doing better. I really want to see it. It looks like the kind of film I would like. So, you know, that's unfortunate. Lady Macbeth isn't doing that well. Doesn't seem to be much of a marketplace for the art house low budget movie right now. 47 Meters Down actually did really well. $5 million budget, $43 million domestic. That ain't bad at all, really. Anything else to look at here? Nope. Okay, so story of the weekend. Hitman, good. Annabelle, great. Logan Lucky, really bad opening weekend. Not a good comeback for Soderbergh. Really no way to spin that as a good opening. It's just kind of bad. Maybe you have to. I guess it was the marketing. Just didn't do well. Dunkirk, good. Nut job, confusing. Emoji Movie, meh. And Spider-Man Homecoming really pulled it through in August, and now it's become one of the most successful films of the year. And it's doing really, really well. So, you know, not bad, but it's not a breakout summer. A lot of these films still haven't even come close yet to the Beauty and the Beast and Fate of the Furious box office. And I'm not sure anything until Star Wars is going to come close to that. Daniel Craig is signed back up for James Bond, so we're gonna have to see how that does. Yeah, it just shows Craig's not a big box office draw outside of Bond, which is typical for Bond actors. Maybe Sean Connery's the only exception I can think of, because he's just a big actor in general. I like this name of this movie, A Taxi Driver. We're not gonna call it Taxi Driver. We're gonna call it A Taxi Driver. Jeez, Glass Castle. What the heck was this movie released for? $9 million domestic. It's terrible. All right, you guys have any last questions before we wrap this up? I do think the trailer for Logan Lucky was, you know, and that's Logan. That's what Soderbergh does. Soderbergh. Yeah, I know you got the emoji joke. Soderbergh does his own marketing, and unlike, let's say, a Fincher or Nolan, I don't think he's as good at it. I did like the trailer, but it's not a good trailer for mainstream audiences. It's like the Haywire trailer and stuff, or the Side Effects trailer. It's a cool trailer if you like Steven Soderbergh, and you get what he's doing with the trailer, and you enjoy watching a trailer be put together in a sense. But watching it as a piece of marketing to get people to go see a movie, you're completely right. Logan Lucky's trailer was pretty lacking. And I think Soderbergh should put a little bit more faith in the marketers. Like, think about Suicide Squad. That film sucks, and the company ended up doing that anyway. But those trailers were good marketing. That movie made a lot of money because of the marketing. It had a great marketing campaign. Same with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. I think that Soderbergh could benefit if he trusted marketers a little bit more and let him handle the film, because most of his films that have been huge hits have relied on the actors, like the Ocean's franchise or Aaron Brockovich when Julia Roberts was huge. He doesn't seem to, even Magic Mike, that's the only one I could think of that really broke out with the trailer and the marketing. But Channing Tatum was becoming a huge star. That was the year of Channing Tatum. That's the year The Vow came out and all that, and Channing Tatum was just blowing up. 21 Jump Street, yeah, that was the year that Channing Tatum became like an A-lister overnight. Yeah, no, we got through this pretty quick, guys. Transformers had a 76% drop in China in its second weekend. Jeez, that's pretty bad. I gotta be honest with you. I agree there's Johnny Depp fatigue. Of course there is. The foreigners were probably pissed that David Hasselhoff wasn't Star-Lord's daddy. You know, David Hasselhoff being in that would have been genius. Like the whole movie. At the very bottom is City of Ghosts, that documentary that's considered like a masterpiece. It's one of the best reviewed films of the year. That's funny. This is like the most critically acclaimed film of the year. Everyone says it's a masterpiece. It's raved on 18 theaters, and it's number 100 at the box office. I mean, it's number 51. So if you want to know what's at the bottom, City of Ghosts. That's crazy. And then this film that I thought was going to break out a little bit, The Little Hours, it's doing pretty bad too. There's actually a lot of movies that came out this year that are doing pretty bad, that are making like no impact at the at all at the box office. Not even in limited release. They're not really doing that well in some markets. Little Hours was worth the watch. I didn't see it, dude, because it wasn't opened anywhere, and then it kind of came and went. I guess I could watch it on the internet, but yeah, it kind of came and went. It didn't really... Like, if you see it was released in... It was in 114 theaters, so, you know... I didn't really have much chance to see it. I wasn't going to have likelihood. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything. Alright, well, I guess it's time to wrap this up. Once again, thank you for watching. I appreciate all you guys for watching this. I appreciate all of you that click on Sundays. If you catch this after stream live, please leave your opinion in the comment section. Tell me something maybe I don't know about this. Give me some information on the marketing budget or some things like that, or the drops in certain countries, or what markets it hasn't been released yet for some movies. Like Planet of the Apes, I don't know every market that's been released yet. I think it still has a China release to come. So yeah, just help me out with some of this stuff. It helps me be better every week. But if you don't catch it, yeah, just tell me what it is. Let's have a discussion together, and we can all talk about this together, because that's what it's about. It's just about talking, guys, and having fun. Little Hours is about these nuns and sex and all this stuff. We'll probably get a Transformer 6, just not by Michael Bay and not with that kind of budget. Alright, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next Sunday. I will be here doing the same thing, as always, talking about the box office. There wasn't a lot of big news this summer, not a lot of new releases, and there's not much to go into, but that's the story. That's what it is. This is how it usually is right now, but it has been a busy summer, as someone just said in the chat. It is a very busy summer. You are totally right. A lot of movies got released. Maybe if it was a quieter summer, The Big Sick would have done better. You know, that's something to consider. So, like I said, leave your opinion in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. And thank you for watching. All right, I'm going to shut this baby down. So you guys in the chat, see ya. And everyone who watches later, screw you for not watching it live. What the heck, man? Come on.